Ohio State in a couple days will face the Akron Zips, and with some news we got from Ryan Day about the quarterback position, there will be a couple guys that are playing this week that haven't played yet. Yes, guys, it's a Thursday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm here with my guy, Jeff Hunt from the Off the Ball Network, getting you ready for this Saturday's game against the Akron Zips. This Locked on Buckeyes live edition here on YouTube and Twitter.
You are Locked on Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked on Buckeyes for the Locked on Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. We are live on YouTube and Twitter. Once again, it's a Thursday evening, and I am here with my guy, Jeff Hunt, from the Off the Ball Network. Him and I are going to get you ready for this Saturday's game against the Akron Zips and highlighting the quarterback position. But before we get to anything ball, anything quarterback, any news of the day, I want to remind you to make sure you check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast, because there's simply no better place to get all the news on the Big Ten Conference than with Nate Dickinson and the Locked On Big Ten podcast. Follow the Locked On Big Ten podcast on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your fine podcast. Jeff, Ohio State is 2-1 with a chance to go 3-1 this Saturday. And the starting quarterback will not be the starting quarterback that Ohio State had games 1, 2, and 3. It'll either be Kyle McCord or Jack Miller III. No Quinn Ewers. He is not ready to play just yet. I sent you a text. Not sure if you saw the news before I sent you that text. But what was it? I can't go that far yet. Guys, Ryan Day has announced, getting way ahead of myself. Ryan Day has announced that he is sitting C.J. Stroud this week for this Saturday's game. He will only be utilized in an emergency capacity only, which probably means he's not touching the field. McCord, Miller, you are up. Ryan Day has not announced a starter just yet. Probably be McCord. That's my guess about who will start, but that's to be determined. But Jeff, I mean, we get what a lot of people have been wanting since game number one of the backups playing in front of everybody in the shoe to really not just showcase what he can do, but also help Stroud get healthy, because he hasn't looked healthy just yet.
No, for sure. And it's funny, you take a little, as a, Buckeye podcaster myself, you take a slight bit of satisfaction, not that Stroud's not playing, nothing like that. There was never anything against the young man, but it was, from the get-go in the Minnesota game, it was like, are we sure we just don't want to give another guy a chance just to throw the ball? We're not saying take Stroud's job. We're not saying kick him out. We're not saying, he should leave the program. We're just simply saying, are we sure another guy shouldn't get a chance? And then, we took a lot of heat for that. I know you did too, Jay. And then the next game, we know what the Oregon game was. And then we kind of wrote that off, and the defense took a ton of the pressure. I mean, the defense took a lot of weight for this. And, you and Mo did a great show by pointing out, well, I don't know, the defense gave him the ball back, 7 different times and things like that. And then last week, I was lucky enough to be there in the shoe and watch it happen. And, I know these things shouldn't affect the program, but the fans had turned. Everybody, unfortunately, only about 76,000 of us were like, okay, Ryan, we get it. It's your guy. You're loyal. This is what you do. But, we're kind of beating our head against a stone right here, man. Like, there's nothing wrong with bringing another. You tell us you got all these 5 stars. Let him throw the ball. And I do think he's a sore, and I think this is a good opportunity for him to rest and a great opportunity for one of these other guys to show what they've been working on for this, almost 2 years also. So it's unique. I'm glad we got Akron. No offense to Akron. It's going to be a night game. So all eyes are on this quarterback. It's going to be a crazy environment.
Very crazy environment. And I do believe when I heard the news, my first reaction was, Kyle McCord, it's your time to shine. I've been a Kyle McCord fan ever since he committed to Ohio State. And when you put him with his former teammate in high school, now they're still teammates now, in Marvin Harrison Jr., is this a game that Harrison Jr. gets more clock, gets more play this week because his quarterback in high school is now possibly going to start, or he will play at some point throughout the game? That's to be determined. But I do believe that the timing is right. I wish this would have happened before the Tulsa game, so you could have at least seen against a different defensive front, the 3-3-5, which can be very, very tricky. You can bring blitzes and you can move guys around all over the place and really mess up the vision and what a quarterback sees while he's on the field. But I'm happy it's happening. I mean, honestly, one, the health of CJ Stroud is something that should be at the forefront of everybody's mind. Imagine this. Imagine if Justin Fields was still here and he was making those kind of throws and he was hurt. We're not playing Clemson. We're not playing Alabama. You're playing games 1, 2, and 3 in the regular season. Take care of your quarterback's health. I think you would have prioritized his health last year more than I think we're prioritizing Stroud's health right now. Now, I don't think he should have played last week. If his arm was the way it was and you knew that going into the Tulsa game, sit him. Like, your guys are good enough to beat a lot of teams in college football. I understand they haven't started yet, but Stroud hasn't started a game before the season, and you still gave him all the trust. I do think it's not too little too late. I'm happy it's happening, but I'm excited to see Miller and McCord on the field Saturday to see what these guys have once they're in front of the shoe. 76,000 last week. Will it get up to 80, 85? I don't know. Those tickets are a hefty price tag right now. But no matter what, I'm excited to see these two young men on the field.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, yeah, you already said it. Stroud's health. If he's dinged at all, sit him. The kid he's 19 years old. He's got a ton of games left in front of him. I mean, worst case, even if it's not for Ohio State, we don't want him injuring himself. It really brings me back to the Braxton Miller summer when they pushed a little bit too hard, and then it wound up being a great ending, but not necessarily for Braxton Miller. I think about those things. Like, a shoulder is a vulnerable spot in the body. A lot of stuff goes on there. And when you're talking about an offense, this is not a dink and dunk offense. I bet a lot of people would be surprised. Stroud's yards per attempt, it's about the same as Justin Fields was for the 2 years he was there. So this is not a dink and dunk offense. We don't want to stress any more than that. But also, man, these kids, they go there, they put the work in, let them have fun under the lights, let them have a great time. Stroud's had 3 games. Like, it's a greater 3 games than like someone like me could ever hope to play in my entire life as a Buckeye fan. So, McCord or Miller, whoever, I assume it's going to be a mixture of both. I really do. Let them go out and have fun, and you know how a team is, Jay. Like, you were a football player too. Like, you have, not that everybody's not on Stroud's side, but these guys build relationships. So that McCord's got a couple guys who are like, man, I can't wait for you to get in. Me and you click. Miller's got guys who are like, man, I can't wait for you to get in. Me and you click. Whether it's an offensive lineman, whether it's tight ends or whatever, these things just develop, in practice. And credit to CJ, that's probably why he got the starting job, is because enough guys like rallied around him and support him. So this is not a negative on CJ, but I'm just saying these other guys, they have their niches, and they have, guys that are like, okay, this is it. Maybe it's Harrison. I totally agree with you. Maybe this is, I don't know. This might be a third quarter where Harrison has 70 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns, things like that. It's time for them to have fun. They've got a very stressful season coming up. That's just part of going to a top 20 program. They've got a lot of stress. Just let them go out there and have some fun, enjoy it. And accuracy comes across. I don't care if it's a practice field, Jay. I don't care if you're throwing at balloons, on the sideline. Like, accuracy counts. So we can still see what these guys have to give, without it necessarily being a top caliber program that we're playing Saturday.
I agree with you. I'm going to hit one of these comments very quickly, kind of piggybacked off what I said, but I think the first statement that Hummus Hero, who is a frequent visitor and viewer of the live shows, and I greatly appreciate that from Hummus, he says this, kind of the same thing I talked about with the quarterbacks and the backups playing, but he says the backups need these reps. They would have hoped to get them some game reps in the Tulsa game, but that didn't happen for obvious reasons. I like that first part. The backups need these reps. Jeff, do you agree with that statement? Just that those first 5 words, the backups need these reps?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, hummus. Thanks for watching and listening. And you said it right there, man. They don't only need them; they deserve them. These guys have put in the work. They deserve to get the reps. And you never know when you're going to call on them. What if JT Barrett hadn't focused like he did in 2014 and so on and so forth. Like, these guys have to be ready. They deserve it. They're ready. They're ready for the moment. That's why they're at Ohio State. They went to Ohio State for these. They went to Ohio State to play. They're not going there just for the scholarship. They're not going there just to get through school. So absolutely. I think we might talk about the defense later, but we have a problem with some of the defensive guys subbing in and out, but that's another thing to where, like, it's still getting your feet on the field. It's still getting hit by someone else that, is not wearing your helmet. And that all helps you down the road. 6 weeks down the road, I think we'll be really glad that a lot of these guys had reps.
Another question for you. I'll piggyback after you answer this one. Can we learn things about Ohio State in this game?
Yes, absolutely. We can learn focus, because sometimes, we always say with these big teams and they play. I mean, I don't know how to describe when they play these opponents like an Akron or somebody who's there, we'll say, for the paycheck, and then they have a letdown game. Well, Ohio State. We thought by now they would deserve a letdown game. They haven't. They haven't earned a letdown game. So we need to see focus. That's what I want to see. I want to see precision. I want to see, I need to see, execution, things like that. You can tell a lot by how much they want to play football by how they play against a team that they are supposed to beat, in a way that they are Akron. The point spread right now is crazy. I think everybody thinks that they're going to unleash the dogs on Akron, and that's fine. Akron's there for it. Nobody's going to get hurt these days. It's not like it used to be back in the day, to where when you played a much lesser opponent, that it was a physical danger. Nobody's in danger. Ohio State could, and I'm not saying they will, but I'm saying Ohio State could win by 70, and Akron could leave the game physically fine. I mean, they've already played Auburn, and let's factor in that they've already been to Auburn and played Auburn. So this is not a team that is going to be dazed by the lights of the stadium. So yes, I think you can see execution, focus, how you respond to each other. Do you throw up your hands if you have to punt on the first couple drives versus Akron? How do the players respond, or do they have that look in their eye like they're giving up on the season, or do they have the look in their eye like, we're fine, we're going to go out and we're going to finish this and look like we are? So I think there's more pressure on this game than people realize.
I think this is a great opportunity for everybody involved to really show that what they're doing in practice is working on the field. Because we have heard all year, these guys are doing good things in practice. Their practice habits are getting better. They're picking up what we're putting down to them. But for some reason on the field, offense is not exempt from this. Offensive balance has not been there. That's something you can have in this game. Defensively, everybody's gotten on the linebackers the secondary a lot and the linebackers a lot. Those front four guys up front on the D line, this is a game where you need to just take this as practice and destroy these guys. Yes, it's football. I can say destroy. These are things that are going to happen on a football field. They need to literally destroy the Akron offensive linemen. Yes, you're going to be out there and say, well, why is JTT going so hard? And why is Jack Sawyer always destroying the right tackle? And why in the world is Antoine Jackson destroying the center? Because that's their job. I'm tired, Jeff. Got a little rant for you. I am tired of the Ohio State football players knowing the standard and not doing their job, not executing the way that they know they need to execute. Yes. I'm tired of watching football, and all of a sudden we're watching the Ohio State football players not be assignment sound. These are the games. Even though it's a lesser opponent, we know the spread. They've seen the spread. They hear the stuff on podcasts like this one, on the radio, in articles. They know all of that. Play up to your standard. Show the country that even though it's Akron, you are still Ohio State, and you are still Ohio State football players. And you know the standard that is at Ohio State. You can learn a lot from this game. And doing those little things every single play are things that can show not just you, the country, but then when you're showing yourself, you're building confidence and saying, look, we're going into a grueling Big Ten football schedule. You got Rutgers, who's playing better. You got Nebraska, who's playing better. You got Michigan at the end of the season, who is has ran for over 320 yards in every single game. This is the time you fix those little things, those little details, start building momentum in yourself so that down the road you're saying, we didn't play up to our standard earlier, but against Akron and going to those other games, we started to figure things out.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Everything you just said there, I'm on board. We're always a kind of a one mind here. I know it may not make for the most exciting show, but most of these notes I had written down is like, this is the time to, I said attack your opponent. You can't afford to look bad. All those things that you just wrapped up, and that's what it's about. You can, you can do that. It's no different than any other game. You're there to do a job. Do your job, and just, you said it, man, just show everybody, and just you just got to learn to play free, like do the things that you were taught in practice and then just go do it, and all the hesitation and everything has to go out the door, man. This this is a great chance with so many tough games down the road. This is a great chance for them to execute and really put their foot on the neck of an opponent for the first time this year. Because be honest with you, Jay, I look back to that Oregon game. That's, if you give me four plays back from that game, that's a blowout for Ohio State. I really believe that in my heart when I look at it. But it wasn't. It wasn't because of mistakes, execution. Like you said, assignment football is. We got some of these guys are just overthinking. This is not the game for that. React and go. I don't care if you give up a 70-yard touchdown because of a weird play to Akron. What we can't give up is a 70-yard drive that takes 10 plays in 5 minutes. That's the difference. If you give up 21 points on 4 plays, big deal. You can't give up 21 points and give Akron, 35 minutes time of possession. That's the difference in this game.
Guys, those of you that are enjoying this live episode of Locked on Buckeyes, I thank you. Tim Thomas, going to get to your comment here in a second. Hummus Hero, I know Mo Murphy chimed into the chat as well. If you guys are catching the audio version, I want to personally thank you for making this the first listen of your day. Tim Thomas, you are up next. We're going to go right to your comment. Jeff, once again, give you first comment once I read what he says. And then we're going to go to the defense because I got some words. I'm sure you got some words about things going on with the defense as well. Timothy T. Thomas says 2 things. 1, McCord is our Joe Burrow in cloak. Next, he says, no chance CJ returning, I'm afraid. Jeff, the floor is yours.
So the whole Joe Burrow thing's sensitive, but I know what he's getting out here. He thinks that there's a diamond in the rough. There's a player that's getting overlooked. That kind of, fell between the cracks. Now, Joe's was because of an injury. That was the biggest thing about Joe Burrow. If he's not injured when he's competing against Haskins, nobody really knows how that turns out. But it turned out the way it turned out, and Joe had one of the greatest seasons in college football history. I don't know about no chance of CJ returning, but I don't necessarily think that he's crazy either. If you get what I'm saying, but I also think that Ryan Day is I think he's a really smart coach. I think he's a really good quarterback coach. And I think he's a really good offensive coach. So obviously there's something that he saw in CJ. I think it might come down to CJ's legs as to where this offense is really sputtering because the one thing CJ's not doing is making decisions. Instead of taking what could be 9 yards, he's throwing the ball. And that's these really any, new age offense, any college offense, if a quarterback can steal 10 or 11 yards, it just breaks the back of a defense. And CJ hasn't done that. That's his choice. I don't know why. Maybe that's between him and Day. I'm just saying the fact of the matter is he hasn't done it. He may have negative rushing yards on the year. I know he did last week. And when you don't punish a team for turning their back on you, then you're really taking away some of the advantage of these RPO offenses. So, I think that that's a lot of the problem, even though I don't necessarily think we need to go to a wishbone or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Do I think CJ's future is in question right now? Of course. I think we'd be silly to think that it's not.
Jeff, I have kind of had a philosophy that I've thought about recently. Well, not a philosophy, just an idea. Just an idea that I've thought about recently and seeing the transition and the cycle of football. I've talked about the never-ending cycle of college football, mainly talking about how the decision makers are never on the same page. They can't get right, and somebody gets disgruntled. They make an agreement, and then they don't like that agreement, and they go back and make a new one. Well, right now, I think in football, college football, NFL football, we had a cycle of the athlete playing quarterback. Braxton Miller being a phenomenal option of that. Yes, he could throw the ball, but Braxton Miller was legit an athlete. When it came to him going to the NFL, he realized playing quarterback was not the most ideal thing for him. Yes, coming off an injury as well, but nobody saw, even Braxton Miller didn't realize, I'm not playing quarterback at the next level, so he went to receiver. Johnny Manziel. We saw the Johnny Manziel era that was there in college football. We had the era of the athlete. Now we're seeing the athlete being able to be an elite passer. And I think right now in college football, especially with Ryan Day, you're seeing that there is an emphasis on the arm, a strong arm, being able to make all of these throws, which is why I think Justin Fields was as good of a quarterback as he was, because his arm was so strong. I wonder right now with the CJ Stroud injury, shoulder injury, McCord and Miller playing on Saturday, I wonder how this impacts Stroud, Miller, McCord, that dynamic, because one of the three is going to emerge and they're going to have the better arm. And I do believe in college football with the high scoring, there are rules that protect the quarterback. But with the way that things are going right now, I firmly wonder if McCord or Miller have a stronger arm, or their mind with their arm is better, more consistent than what we've seen from Stroud. And ultimately, that's the reason why Stroud does not come back onto the field. Not because of his injury, but because one of the other two guys has a stronger arm, a better arm, and fits the mold of college football and what Ryan Day wants for his quarterback better than what Stroud currently has right now.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, it's the offense is based on taking advantage of, the receiving core it's so good. It's crazy to think that we've underachieved this far. They're so good. And Jigba looks great. I mean, I think there's 4 NFL receivers out there at least right now. And I hate to go back to Fields, but he was just the last quarterback. And I know he's a special talent and a rare talent. But what he did was he took advantage of, like, when a guy slid past when he slid past the safety, he took advantage of that every time. And Stroud has simply just missed that. Once again, I'm just saying what happens. It's just the facts. And so if a guy shows up and can drop that in, then that's going to be a huge advantage, because also those receivers want to catch the ball. So, you want to bring receivers into the program. We struggled for that for some years in the Tressel era. It was hard to convince a guy. I remember Brian Hartline, he entered the NFL draft. And I seriously think that season, I think he had 13 receptions total the whole season and went into the NFL draft. I can't imagine a guy now only having 13 receptions at wideout for Ohio State. But, if a guy can show he can drop it in there, Day also has a job to get done, and that's win national championships for Ohio State. That's what he's paid to do. His coaches are well paid to do it. And so I don't care how much he likes a guy. If McCord or Miller look like they can drop it in the breadbasket and make a little quicker decisions. Stroud's been getting a little hesitant on his decisions, waiting for guys to come out of breaks and things like that. That's why he's kind of fell in love with Wilson over the last couple of weeks, kind of waiting for Wilson to get out of his breaks, because Wilson's always going to be open out of a break.
Yeah.
You got Olave out here. Olave didn't have a catch last week. I know he had a drop, but these are signs that you're overthinking it or not making the reads or whatever. So if he gets a guy that's, is going to plant that back foot and put some air under it and let the guys run under it, which we know they can, the guy's going to take the job.
What are you expecting from the defense on Saturday?
I think they're going to let him go a little bit, just because of, I assume that they'll hope that the opponent, they can make up for some of the mistakes. I think what they've done this for a couple of years, they spend too much time, leaving their linebackers in what I call no man's land. And as a linebacker in today's football, you can't be there. You either got to be covering somebody or you got to be coming at the quarterback or running back. When you get stuck in the middle, that you've already lost. And we saw that we got really exposed in Oregon with that. So what I like to see, bring your linebackers up to the line of scrimmage, let them have some fun, let them, if we're going to run this, these new defenses, then that third guy's got to be able to blitz or he's got to drop back. But this getting caught in the middle and being a tackling dummy is just not enough. Let them go. Then plus you'll get to find out, how do they want to hit? Do they want to attack? How do they handle, an offensive lineman coming off the edge, things like that. Find out some things about these guys other than just can they tackle a guy after he's already been hit, by a defensive lineman or things like that. So I just literally expect just a more attacking defense from the linebackers. We know the secondaries, they're going to leave them on an island like they've done for 4 years. I don't see that changing anytime soon.
I am looking for one thing. I know I am expecting more of the younger players to play early in the first half. Now, more JTT and Jack Sawyer early. I hope Taraja Mitchell can play and Cody Simon start. Eichenberg, okay, this is not your time. Maybe next year. I just don't believe you're one of the top 2 linebackers right now to play for this team. I don't believe that. I haven't seen that. Bryson Shaw, you're fast. I'm waiting for you to work on the angles. I'm hoping that you both can start getting better play right now. I know it's your first time on the field. I know things are coming quick, fast, and in a hurry. Because trust me, those plays happen, but before they start, before you know it, they're over. These are boom, boom, boom for these guys. So I'm hoping for those 2 guys to play better. Hoping for the rotation to get a whole lot better. I am also, Jeff, hoping that the tackling is huge, gang tackling. But also, I'm personally looking for Buckeye pride. I'm looking for this defense to really have pride in being Ohio State football players that are on the defensive side of the ball. If something goes wrong, okay, it's not the end of the world. If somebody needs to pick me up, you pick them up. Don't let them get to the sideline for the coach to pick them up. You guys are a unit. Eventually, I believe, be a well-oiled machine that I do believe game 6, 7, and 8, this defense will be good. Specifically, once they figure out how to get a pass rush, it'll fix everything you're talking about, the pass coverage game. That pass rush, when you get that, Eichenberg can do it. I can be out of position. Bryson Shaw can overrun plays, take bad angles. But I firmly believe the pass rush in the front four, once that gets figured out, Jeff, hopefully it happens on Saturday, things will be a whole lot better for the linebackers and the DBs. And national analysts will be viewing Ohio State completely different once the D-line starts playing better.
Yeah, I agree. The national sentiment about just constantly talking about the Ohio State defense, we're all tired of it. It's really not as – I know it's – I can't defend it, but when you really break it down, it's not as bad as it seems. They get off the field a lot more than people think. They just don't have that 21-point lead that changes the other team's offense like we're used to. It's just the facts of it, Jay. You know as well as I do. And let's talk about the main game, the Oregon game. If that offense capitalizes early, it changes Oregon's scheme, and then you can let the guys go. And it really is a factor. We're not at the point to where our defense can just hold the other team down when things are going bad. I'll admit that, but for I don't know, 20, 30 years of my life, we complained because we couldn't score points. So it really, I always said that at the same time. I was like, when Tressel was winning by 10, it was Tressel ball. Meyer was winning by 10, but he was scoring 50. I never knew what the difference was. And that's really what we're seeing right now is we're learning, like, I don't know what the difference is.
So true. So very true. We're out of time, Jeff. That went by way too fast. Do you have any last comments about the offense or the defense? I like to leave things like this for you to where you could say offense, defensively, what you want to look for, expectations, anything along those lines to leave the people with this show.
The main thing I want to see is just like they need to go play. They need to let them respond. There's these especially defensive players, they didn't get to Ohio State by being flat-footed. They got there by being great high school players and being rated and coached. So we know they're good players. So we're banging on them, and I see it too when a guy's standing there still and the play's moving around them. They've got to let these guys go, make them quit thinking. If you need to to mellow out the defense a little bit and just tell them to go tackle people and go crazy, that's fine too. But we know that these players are there for a reason. They need to unlock that. It's not all going to happen against Akron, but I'm with Jay. The potential is there. There's some the young stars are starting to take over, which is a very good sign because you want your young recruits to look great. And that's what we want to see.
Absolutely, guys. This is Jeff Hunt from the Off the Ball Network. You can follow him on Twitter at jhunt006. This will not be the final time you see his face, you hear his voice on this show. You can follow me on Twitter if you're not already at jstevens07. I will be back here live approximately 20 to 30 minutes at the conclusion of Saturday's game. Yes, it's a late one, but we're still going to be live breaking down the game, post-game show right here on Twitter, my personal Twitter page, and on YouTube as well. But before we get out of here, one quick reminder that betting on the Ohio State Buckeyes doesn't have to be a guessing game. If you listen to the new Locked On Bets podcast hosted by your boy Q and handicapping expert Lee Sterling, get daily picks, blowout specials, wrong team favorite picks, and Lee Sterling's lock of the day. Follow the Locked On Bets podcast brought to you by betonline.ag wherever you get your fine podcast.